25. So this is one of the things I said yesterday, chat, which is police always run and hide from mass shooters. If you're in a mass shooting, and I can't believe I have to say this, but as the stream grows, the odds are that at least one of you will be in a mass shooting. The police are not going to end it. They never do. Here's 25 fatal school shootings since Columbine. How did each shooting come to an end? By the way, Columbine is the same way. Let's go through it. 1. Columbine. Shooters committed suicide. School police there failed to stop them. Deming Middle. Shooter arrested. Not by school police. Buell Elementary. Unarmed teacher finds shooter. Lake Worth Middle. Shooter flags down police after shooting. Turns himself in. Santana High. School security tried to stop shooter but got killed. The one time. That guy's a fucking hero. Shooter found alive by police responding later. Red Lion High. Committed suicide. Rocori High. Gym coach disarms shooter. Red Lake High. Committed suicide after killing school security students. Campbell High. Shooter disarmed by unarmed teacher. Essex Elementary shot himself. Weston High. Unarmed janitor and principal disarmed shooter. West Nickel Mines. Committed suicide. Millard South. Suicide. Chardon High. Shooter chased out by unarmed teacher. Sandy Hook. Shooter committed suicide. Sparks Middle. Committed suicide. Afron High. Suicide. Police arriving but not yet on scene. Reynolds High. Suicide. SWAT team had just arrived. Marysville Pilchuck. Suicide. Independence High. Suicide. Townsville. Apprehended by firefighter. North Park. Committed suicide. Freeman. Arrested by police. Not school police. Marshall County. Shooter ran out of ammo. Taken into custody by sheriff. Stoneman Douglas. Arrested later by police. School police didn't help. In many of these cases, school police were on campus. None stopped the shooting. Overwhelmingly, the shooting stops when the shooter stops. Nothing else. No, not SWAT teams, not armed security. Unarmed teachers are more, and janitors are more likely to stop a mass shooting than the cops are. Las Vegas shooting too. They figured out where the guy was in 15 minutes, but then they waited 1 hour before going into the hotel room, killed 59 people and wounded 50 others. Let's do the 2022 version of this thread. Well, this is the 2018 version. If you want it, I just retweeted it. This shows you exactly what goes on. Police are useless. And we already know this, chat. Police, almost everyone agrees, we need to have some sort of community protection force that if somebody's really violent, we can send in as specialists to stop the violence, right? Almost everyone at the end of the day concedes that that's probably necessary. But that's not what our police do. I think it's less than 5% of police time is actually dealing with violent crime. The vast majority of the time, they are hassling people. Here is the article from the New York Times. Typical shift by officer. Responding to non-criminal calls. Why are they doing that? Cut that immediately. That's a third of their time and a third of their budget. Out. Traffic. Why are armed police officers doing traffic stops? Half the time of a cop's time shouldn't even be dealt by them. Other crime. Property crime. Proactive. That means when they harass black kids. Medical or other. Why are they doing it? Do you need armed police for property crime? No. Should they be doing medical? No. Violent crime, 4%. Even if you say 100% of proactive time, violent crime, and other crime is useful, that's a quarter at best. Violent crime, just 4%. Police are fucking useless. Ben, is this you? Goddamn right this is me. Nah, I'm good on all that. Fuck the police, defund the police. Based. All right, chat. We've watched this video like 5 times on this channel, but we're watching it again. Be right back.
If you've ever been on the internet, I mean, you're here right now, you probably wound up in the comments section of at least one article about a mass shooting, some other kind of killing spree, and seen dozens of assholes make comments like,
"Dude, if I was there, I would have totally stopped that guy. I totally know Kung Fu, and I just knock the weapon out of his hand and then break his neck with a spin kick, and then my mom would finally love me."
You know, I really believe, you don't know until you test it, but I think I really believe I'd run in there even if I didn't have a weapon. And I think most of the people in this room would have done that too, because I know most of you.
My name is Joe Lozito, and one day in 2011, my morning commute was interrupted by the tail end of a 28-hour-long stabbing spree. The reason that spree ended is because I stopped it, and I learned The stabber, Maksim Gelman, was already famous across the city. I didn't know any of that though, because I'd gotten up too early to catch the paper. So when an obviously high person staggered crazily into the train, I just kind of figured morning in New York, you know? That creepy guy, who I'd later learn was Gelman, started banging on the door of the engineer's compartment.
Let me in.
I was sitting right by the door. The only thing separating the engineer and myself was a wall. It turned out there were 2 cops on the other side of the door, lying in wait in case Gelman hopped on this train. I found out later they'd recognized him, but they didn't charge out to stop him. Instead, they asked him a polite question.
Who are you? I'm the police.
You're not the police.
You'd expect 2 armed cops to, I don't know, maybe do something about a wanted fugitive spree killer that they were on the train specifically to arrest, but they stayed put. So Gelman walked up to me, whipped out an 8-inch knife and told me,
You're going to die.
Then he stabbed me. I was in the sort of situation every man thinks about at least twice a day. Suddenly thrust into a life or death situation that required me to become a badass. Unfortunately, I had no badass training, but I have watched a lot of MMA, and when he brought back his arm to stab me again, I decided to dive in for a single leg takedown. It should have looked like this. But in reality, I shot in too high and wound up tackling him by the waist, rather than getting him in the leg. So he stabbed me repeatedly in the skull. The good news for you armchair badasses is that you can have no idea what you're doing but still succeed on dumb luck and balls. I outweighed Gelman by a lot, so he went down despite the power of a knife on his side. So we're both on the ground, I'm on top, and he's still got his stabbing machine in hand. I tried to grab his right hand, which held the knife, with my left, but I missed, and he sliced me good in the thumb. I tried to catch him a second time and failed, so he slashed me again in my left tricep. My third grab was a chom, though. I caught his hand and slammed it into the ground. He dropped the knife. Once I had him pinned and was, dying of blood loss, the cops decided it was safe enough to arrest Gelman. Next thing I remember is a cop tapping me on the shoulder. You can get up now, we got him. I thought that was being charitable, but at the time I didn't exactly feel argumentative. There was no pain yet, just this warm feeling from the blood gushing out of me. It was like standing in the shower with warm water spraying the top of your head and flowing down the back of your neck. And again, when you'd expect the police to jump to my aid, they didn't. None of them even touched me. The only guy to render aid was another passenger, Alfred Douglas, aka Napkin Man, because he staunched my bleeding injuries with napkins. I think Napkin Man probably saved my life, but at this point I'd been stabbed roughly all the times a person can be stabbed while remaining conscious. And so I passed out. When I eventually came to in the hospital, it was kind of frustrating to realize that none of the early coverage mentioned me or Napkin Man. The police gave all the credit to the 2 officers who'd been in the subway train with me, only neither of them actually even left the booth until I disarmed Gelman. During the grand jury hearing, one of the cops testified, I started to come out, I opened the door, but I thought Gelman had a gun, so I closed the door and stayed inside. I can see how in a stressful situation you might mistake a knife for a gun, but also that kind of makes it more infuriating. If you, Mr. Cop A. Policington, thinks this insane, drug-addled murderer has a gun, and he's sitting on a train bound for Times Square, don't you want to stop him at all costs? So yeah, I decided to sue the NYPD. The first case I brought got dropped, so I acted as my own lawyer for the second case and finally made it to a judge. The judge said,
Mr. Lozito's version of the story sounds highly credible, and his version of events rings true.
But I still lost the case. Here's how that was justified in its original legalese.
No direct promises of protection were made to Mr. Lozito, nor were there direct actions taken to protect Mr. Lozito prior to the attack. Therefore, a special duty did not exist.
It turns out there was a major piece of legal precedent in my way. In 2005, the Supreme Court ruled on Castle Rock v. Gonzalez. In that case, a woman sued the Castle Rock PD after they failed to respond when she complained that her estranged husband had violated a protective order and abducted their kids. He eventually murdered them. The Supreme Court ruled in the police department's favor. It turns out it's literally not their job to protect people. So to the internet badasses who are about to comment on this video and claim they'd totally nailed the takedown, you should make a note of a few things. First, my insurance had me in and out of the hospital in 2 days. And the hospital didn't give me any AIDS or hepatitis tests after I'd been stabbed with a knife that had stabbed other people. Apparently that's not medically necessary. Second, if you ever get the chance to confront a dangerous armed madman, don't trust in the police having your back. Don't expect to get the credit. And hope like hell there's another Napkin Man waiting in the wings to help you.
You have an obligation to like, comment, and subscribe.